Now, the law that created our agency, the NBDB, is quite old, Republic Act 8047. And I remember in your testimony at the recent hearing in the Senate, Senator Gatchalian was thinking out loud, what might be the future of books, because he himself, I think, reads on his gadgets. And I'm sure your kids and my daughter, they also read, things online, but they also have physical books. First question, what do you think is the future of the printed books? Will it stick around, or will we see new formats, and does 8047 have to adapt to those changes?
Okay, so I'll start with your first question. A book is a book regardless of what format we read it in, whether it be in the digital format or the physical format. So I always have to remind people of that, because when they say a book, it's the physical book. But a book can be, something that you read on the computer, and it's still, it's still a book.
Same thing with a newspaper. Yeah.
Yes. So with that, when the law was created, there was none of this digital.
26 something years ago.
26 years ago. The digital format was not there yet. And again, books were thought of as a social good and not a viable economic product that can be translated into so many things. So it is time that we amend the law. Number one is the definition of the book.
Right.
Is
so
archaic.
What is a book?
Yes.
Right.
What is a book, and what are the different iterations of a book? So that has to be defined, because our definition is from 26 years ago, and as we know, things move very fast. Right now, we are in the digital age, and it's first it was just books that you can scan and read online, but now you have books that are interactive, that you can you can click, and all of these things. So it's defining that and really strengthening the national book policy, operationalizing the national book policy. It's very general, and this is something that we need to start focusing on. And we really also need to start focusing on, within the law, the trade development component.
Now,
as well.
When you mention the definition of a book, of course, there's consequence there for the consumer. Because they pay taxes, right? So if you buy a printed book, that's tax-free. But because e-books are not yet part of the definition of books in the Philippines, they have to pay taxes. So is that correct? Is that something that that we want to change?
Yes. So this is why we do want to amend the law, so that the consumer is able to still purchase Filipino-authored books, Filipino books at whatever. I guess whatever iteration, at a cost that is affordable to them.
Right. Now, one of the things that NBDB does is they offer tax incentives for publishers who are working on educational books, right? Could you talk about that? And maybe is that something that's part of the discussion in trying to amend 8047? Because we've done a lot of meetings with Congress about the CREATE law. To help distressed companies, of course, publishing businesses among them. Yes,
so we've been working with the BOI regarding this, and the law really fits if you are a larger publisher.
Okay.
But most publishers in the Philippines are small to medium enterprises. So we need to look for incentives that they can be able to work with. So if you have all of these large printers or whatnot, that might work, but we really need to look for something that is more suitable to them. We also have another program where we provide tax incentives for imported paper. And
this is for the publishers that I was saying.
Yes. So, but we also need to start looking, and I know we had this conversation before about looking at the milling companies and the paper companies and seeing if they can start doing that here in the Philippines rather than importing it, and all of the carbon emissions and all of
that's a totally different industry, but quite relevant to book publishing. The fact that there's no raw material.
We don't have the raw materials.
Yeah.
So if we would like to purchase that, those really beautiful art books that you see when you go to the mall with a beautiful paper, we don't have that paper in the Philippines. So if we were to print that here, the cost would be, most cannot afford it.
Right. Not to mention helpful to creating jobs and,
Yes.
and creating other opportunities. What are some of the other major changes in Republic Act 8047 are you looking to push, besides the definition of
The
books?
definition of the books, strengthening our role in regards to procurement of books by government organizations. So we really would like to strengthen our role with the Department of Education, and really having the Department of Education look at the NBDB, because we do have the experts that can tell you, they can tell you whether a book was printed in 1950 or 1951 and what type of paper and the content, and we do have the pool of experts because we have a registry system. So to really just have a closer working relationship with the Department of Education, number one, and also to have a relationship with the Department of Trade and Industry. So right now our books are not part of trade. Our books are always thought of as a social good. So by having this law, by amending this law, then we would be integrated into the creative industry system, I guess, ecosystem.
Right. And one of the things that we've been working on since last year is this new initiative of Congressman Toff de Venecia to, I guess, formalize or organize the creative industries, and of course book publishing is among that, among them. But what are some of the things that you think that will benefit book publishers with that initiative of Congressman de Venecia?
Wow, it's just immense, the opportunity with this law. So once all of the creative industries are aligned, then it's basically that knowledge sharing. And if, let's say, for example, I have a book and I'm in the same council, because there will be a council with someone from film development, and there are many filmmakers that are looking for Philippine content, this book can be translated into a movie. So the author and the publisher would make money from just selling the rights, and then the filmmaker would also be able to have more content and also have the movies on film. That goes the same for music, that goes the same for merchandise or whatnot. So it's something similar to what Korea is doing today. So that Korea and this K-pop, all of this, that was a conscious effort years ago to really streamline all of the creative industries.
Right. And it's no accident that they're doing so well on the global stage, not to mention Hollywood, where they were successful with movies like Parasite, and of course my wife watches Korean telenovelas all the time. So do you think that's possible for the Philippines? Is what we're seeing, all of the content, all of the creative goods that we're seeing in Korea, is that the dream for the Philippines, or can we do better?
I always think we could do better.
Okay.
I mean, I'm very idealistic, but because our country, we're not a monolinguistic country. We don't only have one culture. We have more than 110 ethno-linguistic groups, each with its own music, culture, language, vibe. So if we are able to hone all of that, translate it into all of these things that can reinforce the greatness of our culture, then you will have a generation of empowered children. You will have people that will stay in the Philippines and start staying here, working here, creating more. So this is something that I think is amazing, and I'm quite excited.
Well, I was quite excited to have you on this program, because we have been hearing that Filipinos are struggling with reading, and I hope that our discussion today will be heard by the key policymakers, and maybe they can do more collaborations with NBDB. Thank you, Charisse, for your time. But before we go, maybe you'd like to leave our guests with a message. I know October is only coming up with Frankfurt, but maybe Filipinos are already thinking about Christmas. Maybe you can recommend some Christmas gifts this early.
Surely.
Yeah.
So the National Book Development Board, please follow us. We are on Facebook, and we have our website, booksphilippines.gov.ph. Please follow us, and you can also visit us at the Manila International Book Fair. That's next week, September 16 to 20, I believe. Oh my gosh, I hope that's the correct information. And we will also be at the Frankfurt Book Fair in October and in Sharjah. But please do follow us on our social media so you can get up-to-date information. You can also register with us if you are a creative or a publisher, and you're able to get grants, incentives, education, and all of that good stuff. So again, thank you very much
Thank you
for having me, and
thank you, Charisse.
let's connect.